The day humanity received the invitation from the Galactic Council was quiet, almost ordinary. Captain John Miller stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, Earth's flagship vessel, as the alien transmission finished playing. He ran a hand through his short brown hair and exchanged glances with Susan Wright, his chief negotiator. "So they've been watching us all along," Susan said, her voice steady despite the momentous news. "Decades of observation, and now they decide we're ready." Miller nodded. "Ready or not, this is our chance. First impressions matter." Behind them, Alan Garcia, the ship's xenobiologist, was already reviewing the biological data on the 27 species that made up the council. His eyes widened as he scrolled through the information. "Captain, you need to see this," he said. "Most of these species evolved from prey animals on their home planets. Their flight responses are much more developed than their fight responses." Lisa Carter, military advisor to the diplomatic mission, leaned against the console. Her combat experience on Mars and Europa made her valuable, despite Earth Command's insistence that this was purely a diplomatic mission. "In other words," she said, "we're about to walk into a room full of deer and rabbits while we're basically wolves." Miller's expression remained neutral. "Then we'll be very gentle wolves. Earth needs allies, not enemies. The official approach stands. We are peaceful explorers seeking friendship." The truth was more complicated. Earth's rapid expansion through the solar system had depleted resources faster than predicted. Humanity needed access to new worlds, new technologies. If friendship was the path to survival, then friendship it would be, at least on the surface. 3 days later, the Harbinger docked at the Galactic Council's central station, a massive ring structure orbiting a blue dwarf star. The human delegation prepared in the ship's conference room. "Remember," Miller instructed his team, "we present ourselves as scholars and diplomats first. Our military capability remains understated." Susan adjusted her formal blue uniform. "I've studied their negotiation patterns. Most council species value harmony above advantage. They'll be looking for signs we can fit into their system without disruption, which is why they'll be scanning us constantly," Alan added. "Their technology can detect stress responses, hormone fluctuations. When they realize our fight or flight response leans heavily toward fight, they might get nervous." Lisa checked, her ceremonial sidearm empty as required by protocol. "Let them be nervous, just not too nervous." The reception hall of the council station stunned even the well-prepared humans. Massive crystal viewports revealed the swirl of stars beyond. Representatives of 27 species mingled under soft ambient lighting. Some floated in environmental suits, others slithered or crawled, while many stood on 2 or 4 legs. Ambassador Krith of the Zalarians approached first. Standing nearly 7 feet tall with smooth blue skin and 4 arms, he towered over Miller. His large, gold-flecked eyes blinked sideways as he performed the traditional greeting, a slow wave of his upper right hand. "Captain Miller," Krith's translator device conveyed in perfect English. "The Council welcomes humanity to the galactic community." Miller returned the gesture precisely as they had practiced. "The people of Earth are honored by your welcome. Ambassador, we come seeking friendship and knowledge." As the formal introductions continued, Miller noted how the various council members observed the humans. The Palaxians, with their feathered crests, kept their distance. The gelatinous Thulians seemed especially fascinated, their transparent bodies pulsing with bioluminescent patterns whenever a human spoke directly to them. "Your species is unusually—" Ambassador Krith paused, searching for the right word. "Resilient. Our observers report that you continue activities despite physical discomfort, sleep deprivation, or environmental challenges that would incapacitate most sentient beings." Susan stepped in smoothly. "We evolved on a planet with many challenges, Ambassador. Adaptability has been key to our survival." "Indeed." Krith's eyes narrowed slightly. "Our historical archives show your planet has experienced continuous warfare throughout your recorded history. Yet here you stand, presenting yourselves as diplomats." Miller maintained his diplomatic smile. "Every intelligent species has a past. Ambassador, we've learned from ours. Cooperation has allowed us to reach the stars. Now we hope to extend that cooperation beyond our solar system. The formal reception transitioned to a series of meetings where Earth's representatives were questioned extensively about human culture, biology, and intentions. Alan found himself surrounded by curious xenobiologists, while Lisa fielded carefully worded queries about Earth's defensive capabilities. In the central chamber, Miller and Susan faced the Council Leadership Committee, 7 representatives, from the founding species. The Vordax representative, a mantis-like being named Senior Consul Tsek, leaned forward. "We have reviewed your proposal for council membership. Some have concerns about admitting such a young species." "Young but eager to learn," Miller replied. "Earth has much to offer in exchange for the council's wisdom." "Such as?" asked the Myriolan delegate, her flowered skin shifting colors. With her mood, Susan activated a holographic display showing Earth's artistic and scientific achievements. Cultural exchange, medical advancements, engineering innovations. Humans excel at finding creative solutions to complex problems. What Susan didn't mention was humanity's remarkable talent for weaponizing nearly any technology, or their unmatched skill in strategic thinking. These were cards better kept hidden. Ambassador Krith, who had been silent during the presentation, finally spoke. "I have studied Earth's history more thoroughly than most. Your kind fought predators on your world until you became the dominant predators yourselves. Now you wear civilized clothing and speak of peace, but I wonder, has your nature truly changed?" For a brief moment, the diplomatic mask slipped, and Miller's eyes locked with Krith's. Something primal passed between them. Recognition, perhaps, from one hunter to another. Then Miller smiled, his posture relaxing into practiced charm. "We all evolve beyond our origins, Ambassador. Humans have learned that cooperation achieves more than conflict. We hope to prove that to the Council through actions, not just words." After 3 days of intensive questioning and negotiations, the Council reached its decision. The humans gathered in the Great Chamber as Senior Consul Tsek announced the verdict. The Earth Alliance is granted probationary membership in the Galactic Council for a period of 1 standard cycle. During this time, cultural exchanges and limited technology sharing will commence. Miller bowed respectfully. "Earth thanks the Council for this opportunity. We will not disappoint you." As the ceremony concluded and the various delegates dispersed, Ambassador Krith approached Miller one final time. "Captain," he said quietly, "my species evolved as ambush predators before we developed civilization. It takes one to recognize one. The others may be convinced by your diplomatic veneer, but remember, I will be watching." Miller's expression didn't change, but his eyes, for just a moment, showed something ancient and dangerous. "We look forward to a long and peaceful relationship with all Council species, Ambassador, especially the watchful ones." Later, aboard the Harbinger, Lisa found Miller staring out at the station. "They accepted us," she said. "Mission accomplished." Miller nodded, slowly. "Phase 1 accomplished. They've invited us in. Now we make ourselves indispensable. And if they discover what we're really capable of?" Miller turned from the viewport, his expression thoughtful. "Then we'd better make sure they need us more than they fear us." The Harbinger's engines hummed as they prepared to return to Earth, with news of their success. Beyond the viewports, the galaxy spread out before them, full of resources, knowledge, and opportunities. The wolves had been invited into the fold, and none of the sheep suspected a thing. 6 months had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. Daniel Ross adjusted his uniform as he walked through the gleaming corridors of Harmonium, the Council's central hub world. As a cultural attaché, his job was to present humans in the best possible light. Today, that job felt harder than usual. Daniel nodded politely to a passing Thulian diplomat, its transparent body pulsing with colors that indicated curiosity. The aliens were still fascinated by humans, studying them at every opportunity. What they didn't know was that humans were studying them right back, far more carefully than they let on. "Ross," a voice called from behind him. He turned to see Karen Maxwell, the human science officer who had been working with the Thulian research team. Her normally calm face looked troubled. "We need to talk," she said quietly. "Not here." They found an empty observation deck overlooking the massive garden dome that formed Harmonium's center. Strange plants from 100 worlds grew in carefully maintained environments, each section replicating the conditions of its home planet. "What's wrong?" Daniel asked once they were alone. Karen's eyes darted around, making sure no one could overhear them. "I've been reviewing their psychological profiles as part of the joint research project. Daniel, these species are fundamentally different from us in ways we never fully understood." "Different how?" "Most council races evolved as prey animals. Their entire psychology is built around avoiding danger, finding safety in numbers, compromising, to avoid conflict." She pulled out a small data pad and showed him brain scan comparisons. "See this? When faced with a threat, their first neural response is fear, then avoidance. Ours is assessment, then confrontation." Daniel frowned. "That's not exactly surprising. Our ancestors were pursuit predators." "Yes, but it goes deeper. Their social structures, their politics, even their art. It all stems from a different evolutionary path. The council works because most members share similar threat responses despite their physical differences." Karen looked directly at him. "We're the outliers, Daniel. We're predators pretending to be like them." Before Daniel could respond, his communication device buzzed. The message was brief. "Emergency meeting. Human embassy." Now, when they arrived at the embassy, Security Chief Paul Nelson was already organizing the response team. His face was grim as he briefed the assembled staff. At 0800 local time, an explosion occurred in the south wing. 3 diplomats are dead, 5 injured. Initial evidence suggests a targeted attack. Daniel felt a chill run through him. "Who would attack us? We've been careful to maintain good relations with all council races." Paul's expression hardened. "The Vraxians have claimed responsibility. They say humans are a destabilizing presence in the council." The room fell silent. The Vraxians were a minor power but known for their extreme views on purity of species. Most council races considered them troublemakers but harmless. "What's our response?" Karen asked. "Official channels," Paul replied. "We file protests, request council intervention, follow proper diplomatic procedures." His eyes, however, told a different story. The human staff understood the unspoken message. While the diplomatic face would be maintained, the attack would not go unanswered. Later that day, as the council convened an emergency session to discuss the attack, Ambassador Krith observed the human delegation with increasing concern. Their public response was measured, reasonable, even subdued. It didn't match what his instincts told him to expect from predators whose pack members had been killed. Ambassador Gregory Hayes, the head of Earth's diplomatic mission, spoke calmly to the assembled council. "Earth appreciates the council's swift condemnation of this cowardly attack. We trust in the council's justice system to address this matter appropriately." Yet when the session ended and Hayes passed close to Krith, the Zalarian caught a glimpse of something in the human's eyes, a cold, calculating rage that sent a primal shiver through Krith's body. That night, in his private quarters, Krith composed an urgent message to the Zalarian High Command. "Humans are not what they appear. Their diplomatic behavior masks their true nature. I fear what may happen when that mask slips entirely." 2 weeks after the bombing, Paul Nelson sat in a nondescript room in the lower levels of Harmonium. The 3 beings seated across from him shifted uncomfortably under his steady gaze. "You understand," Paul said calmly, "that I'm not officially here. This conversation isn't happening." The Vraxian sympathizers, 2 Palaxians and a Mirialan, nodded nervously. They had been detained by council security for questioning about the embassy attack, then mysteriously transferred to this unmarked location. "The bomb materials came from Sector 17, Paul continued, his voice never rising above a conversational tone. "The detonator was Vraxian design, but modified by someone with expertise in Palaxian circuitry." The Mirialan's skin paled to a sickly yellow. "We told you everything we know already." Paul smiled, and the three aliens flinched despite themselves. It wasn't a cruel smile or threatening in any obvious way, but something about it, the way it didn't reach his eyes perhaps, struck them as deeply wrong. "Let me explain something about humans," Paul said, leaning forward slightly. "When we lose members of our group, we don't just grieve. We hunt. It's in our nature. For thousands of years, that's what we did. We tracked those who threatened us across any terrain, in any conditions for as long as it took." He laid 3 images on the table. The human diplomats who had been killed. "These were my friends. I will find everyone responsible. The only question is whether you help me now or face what comes next." The Palaxians broke first, revealing the location of the Vraxian cell that had planned the attack. By morning, Council security forces, acting on anonymous tips, had arrested 12 conspirators across 3 sectors. Officially, Earth praised the Council's swift justice. Privately, the human embassy staff understood. Paul Nelson had sent a message to any who might target humans in the future. Meanwhile, in the science wing, Karen Maxwell continued her research with the Thulian team. As she analyzed comparative species data, a Thulian researcher named Bryn drifted beside her. "Your species confuses us," Bryn admitted, its translator conveying the curious pulse of its biolights. "When threatened, you become more focused, not less. When injured, you often ignore pain that would incapacitate others. These are not common traits among Council races." Karen chose her words carefully. "Humans evolved in a challenging environment. We adapted to survive." "But you don't just survive," Bryn replied. "You advance relentlessly. Your ships are already being modified to exceed Council standards. Your diplomats work longer hours than any other species. Your security forces train constantly. These are not the behaviors of a species seeking merely to exist within the community." For a moment, Karen considered deflecting, offering the standard diplomatic response. Instead, she looked at the alien directly. "Every species has its nature, Bryn. We can channel ours in different ways, but we can't change what we are." As Karen spoke across the station, Ambassador Krith was presenting his concerns to a closed council session. Most members dismissed his warnings as paranoia. Humans were odd, yes, but they had been nothing but cooperative since joining the council. Only the Thulian representative seemed troubled. "Perhaps," it suggested, "we should investigate further before the integration process advances." "Investigate? What?" asked the Mirialan chairperson. "Their diplomatic record is impeccable." Krith's 4 hands gestured in frustration. "That's precisely my point. It's too perfect. They're showing us exactly what we want to see." The debate continued late, into the night, but without evidence of wrongdoing, no action could be taken. The humans would continue their integration into Council society, their true nature still hidden behind diplomatic smiles and measured words. On the Harbinger, now permanently docked at Harmonium as Earth's embassy ship, Captain Miller reviewed the reports from his team. The diplomatic mission was proceeding exactly as planned, despite the recent setback. The Council races were beginning to depend on human assistance with various projects, just as Earth Command had predicted. 6 months, he murmured to himself. 6 months, and we're already essential to them. He looked out at the stars beyond the station, wondering how long they could maintain the facade, and what would happen when the galaxy finally understood what humanity truly was. The Vraxian attack fleet appeared without warning at the edge of the Tau Ceti system, where humans had established their first research outpost beyond Sol. 8 warships, their hulls marked with the jagged crimson insignia of the Vraxian Dominion, dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately began jamming communications. On the small research station orbiting Tau Ceti's 4th planet, 32 scientists looked up from their work as the emergency systems activated. Dr. Frank, Porter, the station director, rushed to the communications hub. "What's happening?" he demanded. The communications officer's face was pale. "Vraxian warships, sir. They're blocking our distress signals to Earth and the Council." Porter looked at the tactical display with growing concern. The Vraxians were a mid-tier military power, known for their territorial aggression but generally contained by Council diplomacy. They had never directly attacked another species' installation before. "They're hailing us," the officer said. The screen flickered to life, showing a Vraxian commander. Like all their species, he had a reptilian appearance with ridged scales running from his forehead down his spine. His eyes were vertical slits of deep amber. "Human research station," the commander said, his translator creating a metallic edge to his words. "This is Commander Vrex of the Vraxian Dominion. Your presence in this system violates Vraxian territorial claims. You will surrender your facility immediately." Porter kept his voice steady. "Commander, this system was approved for human research by the Galactic Council 6 months ago. We have all proper documentation. The Council does not dictate to the Dominion. You have 1 standard hour to prepare for boarding. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." As the transmission ended, Porter turned to his staff. "Get everyone to the emergency shelter, encrypt all research data, and initiate emergency protocols." "Sir," his security officer said quietly, "we should activate the beacon." Porter hesitated only briefly before nodding. When humans had joined the Council, they had publicly agreed to rely on Council protection. Privately, Earth Command had installed quantum-linked emergency beacons in all human outposts, connecting them directly to the newly formed Earth Defense Fleet, a military force far larger and more advanced than what they had disclosed to the Council. The beacon signal bypassed normal communication channels, traveling instantaneously through quantum entanglement. Within minutes, it reached the command center of the EDF flagship Valiant, where Admiral Patricia Summers was reviewing fleet deployment plans. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "emergency beacon activated at Tau Ceti Research Station. They're under attack by Vraxian forces." Summers didn't hesitate. "Alert Battle Group Delta to prepare for immediate deployment. Inform Earth Command and send a message to our embassy at Harmonium. Diplomatic channels only. Tell them to notify the Council that we're responding to an unprovoked attack on our research facility." "Rules of engagement, Admiral?" Summers' eyes narrowed slightly. "Defensive posture until fired upon. After that, standard combat protocols." What the Vraxians didn't know, what the Council didn't know, was that standard combat protocols for the Earth Defense Fleet were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other, refining the art of warfare to a degree that would horrify most Council species. At Harmonium, Ambassador Gregory Hayes received the encrypted message during a Council subcommittee meeting. His expression remained neutral as he processed the information. Then he politely requested to address the Council urgently. "Distinguished representatives," Hayes began, his voice grave but controlled. "I have just been informed that Vraxian forces are attacking our research outpost in the Tau Ceti system. We request immediate Council intervention to prevent further hostilities." The chamber erupted in concerned murmurs. The Vraxians had sent a minor diplomatic representative to the Council, who now stood and spoke defiantly. "The system in question lies within traditional Vraxian space. The humans were warned." Hayes maintained his diplomatic composure, though those who knew him well could see the cold anger in his eyes. "The Council approved our presence there 6 months ago, with full documentation filed and accepted by all parties, including Vraxia." Ambassador Krith, watching from his seat, noticed something troubling. The humans seemed concerned but not afraid. For a supposedly peaceful research civilization facing a known military power, their response lacked the appropriate level of fear. Before the Council could reach a decision on intervention, another message reached Hayes. He listened to his earpiece, then addressed the Council again. "I have been informed that Earth has dispatched vessels to evacuate our research personnel. We continue to request Council mediation to resolve this situation peacefully." What Hayes didn't mention was that Battle Group Delta consisted of 5 warships specifically designed for combat, not evacuation. At Tau Ceti, Commander Vrex watched with satisfaction as his ships surrounded the human station. The Vraxian High Command had authorized this operation as a test, to gauge human military response and capabilities. Intelligence suggested humans were physically tough, but technologically unimpressive and reliant on Council protection. This small outpost would provide a perfect demonstration of Vraxian superiority. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, We're detecting multiple faster-than-light signatures approaching. Vrex smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Right on schedule. Prepare to intercept whatever outdated transport ships they've sent. What emerged from faster-than-light travel was not what the Vraxians expected. 5 sleek vessels, clearly military, in design, arranged themselves in perfect formation. The center ship, larger than the others, broadcast on all frequencies. Vraxian vessels. This is Admiral Patricia Summers of the Earth Defense Fleet vessel Valiant. You are engaged in an unlawful attack on a peaceful research facility. Withdraw immediately. Vrex was momentarily stunned. The ships before him were, unlike the simple transport and research vessels humans had previously revealed to the Council. These were warships with design elements suggesting combat capabilities beyond anything intelligence had reported. Recovering quickly, he signaled his fleet. Humans are bluffing. Target their lead ship and fire warning shots. They'll retreat. The Vraxian cruiser launched a volley of energy blasts that passed close to the Valiant's hull, a standard intimidation tactic that had worked against other species. Admiral Summers' response was immediate. All ships, defensive pattern Omega. Target weapons and propulsion systems only. What followed was not a battle but a surgical demonstration. The human ships moved with coordinated precision that spoke of extensive combat training. Their weapons struck with pinpoint accuracy, disabling 2 Vraxian vessels in the first exchange. On the Council station, Ambassador Krith watched the incoming data with growing horror. The humans had provided the Council with a feed from their vessels, ostensibly to document the unprovoked attack. What Krith saw fundamentally challenged everything the Council thought they knew about humans. Their response time is impossible, he muttered to his aide. Look at their targeting precision. This isn't a species that just developed space travel. This is a species that has been preparing for war for generations. As the feed continued, the Council chamber fell silent. The human ships moved in ways that seemed to anticipate Vraxian tactics, as if they had studied their opponents extensively. When a Vraxian blast did connect with a human vessel, the ship absorbed damage that should have crippled it and continued fighting. Within the human ships, crews worked with grim efficiency. Unlike most Council species who became disorganized under stress, humans seemed to grow more focused, more coordinated as the conflict intensified. Admiral Summers stood calmly, on her bridge issuing orders in a steady voice. Target their flagship's engines, prepare boarding teams. The Valiant's weapons officer, a veteran of the Mars conflict, executed the command with practiced precision. The Vraxian command ship suddenly found itself dead in space, its propulsion systems offline. Commander Vrex stared in disbelief at his tactical display. In less than 20 minutes, his entire fleet had been neutralized without a single ship destroyed. The humans had deliberately avoided killing shots, instead systematically disabling each vessel with surgical precision. They're hailing us again, his communications officer reported, voice shaking. Admiral Summers appeared on screen, her expression neutral. Commander Vrex, your vessels are disabled. Prepare to be boarded. Your crew will be treated according to Council conventions on prisoners of war. As human boarding teams in advanced combat suits secured the Vraxian vessels, footage of the entire encounter was transmitted to the Galactic Council, along with Ambassador Hayes's formal statement. Earth defends its citizens but seeks no revenge. We request Council mediation to resolve this conflict peacefully. In the Council chamber, the representatives of 27 species watched in stunned silence. The humans had revealed military capabilities far beyond what they had disclosed, moved with a coordination that suggested extensive combat experience, and yet had shown restraint in victory. Ambassador Krith turned to the Thulian representative beside him. Now do you understand? We've invited predators into our midst, and they've been concealing their claws. The news of the Vraxian incident spread quickly through Council space. Despite efforts by diplomats to downplay the event, footage of the human response had been seen by billions across hundreds of worlds. The galaxy was talking about humans, and the conversation had changed. Olivia Foster sat in her office at the Xenoanthropology Department on Harmonium, preparing to upload her research paper to the Galactic Network. As one of Earth's leading experts on comparative species psychology, she had spent the last 8 months studying the fundamental differences between humans and council races. What she had discovered troubled her deeply. Her research assistant, Ben Wright, entered with 2 cups of coffee. "Are you sure about publishing this? Earth Command might see it as revealing too much." Olivia took the coffee with a grateful nod. "It's going to come out eventually. After what happened at Tau Ceti, they're already starting to figure it out. Better they understand us properly than make dangerous assumptions." Her paper, titled Predatory Origins, The Evolutionary Psychology of Humans in Galactic Context, laid out in clinical detail how human social structures, diplomatic approaches, and even artistic expressions all stemmed from their evolution as apex predators who later developed cooperation as a hunting strategy. She submitted the paper with a single keystroke, then leaned back in her chair. "Now we wait." The paper spread, through academic circles first, then broader society as commentators and council officials began citing its findings. Within days, it had been translated into every major language in council space. In the Harmonium Botanical Gardens, Ambassador Krith met with the Palaxian representative, Minister Lore. The avian Palaxian's feathered crest flattened against her head, a sign of anxiety in her species. "Have you read Foster's paper?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Krith nodded solemnly. "It confirms what I've suspected since they first arrived. Humans are fundamentally different from us. Their cooperation isn't based on mutual protection like most council species. It's based on pack hunting behavior. The descriptions of their early hunting techniques." Minister Lore's feathers ruffled involuntarily. "They would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Not ambush or trap. Pursue relentlessly. What kind of mind evolves from such behavior?" "A patient, calculating one," Krith replied. "Their diplomatic strategies reflect this. They don't seek quick victories. They position themselves for long-term advantage." As they spoke, 3 human children ran past playing some kind of chasing game. Their laughter echoed through the garden, causing several nearby Palaxians to edge away nervously. Even human play mimicked hunting. Across Harmonium, similar conversations were happening as council species began reassessing their human neighbors. Several minor races withdrew their diplomatic missions entirely, claiming security concerns. Others doubled their security details around human areas. In the council's executive chamber, the 13 senior representatives debated the growing tension. The Thulian High Delegate's bioluminescent patterns pulsed rapidly as it spoke. "We cannot ignore the military capabilities they displayed at Tau Ceti. Those were not hastily assembled defense ships. They were warships, designed and crewed by those with extensive combat experience." The Mirialan chairperson's flower-like skin had darkened with stress. Yet they showed restraint. They disabled rather than destroyed the Vraxian fleet. Surely that counts in their favor. "Predators often disable prey before delivering the killing stroke," Krith countered. "I move that we reconsider human membership and place restrictions on their expansion until we better understand their intentions." Before a vote could be called, an urgent message interrupted the session. A natural disaster had struck the Palaxian homeworld, a massive tectonic event triggering tsunamis across their island-based civilization. Millions were at risk. As the council scrambled to organize relief efforts, Ambassador Hayes approached the chamber's central platform. "Earth offers immediate assistance," he announced. "We have disaster response teams ready to deploy within the hour." The Palaxian representative looked skeptical. "Your teams could not possibly reach our world in time. We're 17 light years from your nearest base." Hayes smiled reassuringly. "We have ships ready. Trust us." Before the council could properly organize its own response, 3 human vessels were already en route to the Palaxian homeworld. Unlike the warships at Tau Ceti, these were clearly designed for humanitarian missions, but their speed and readiness suggested humans had been preparing for such scenarios long before they were needed. The disaster response specialist leading the mission, Eric Martinez, had assembled his team within minutes of receiving the alert. Most were veterans of Earth's own natural disasters: hurricanes, earthquakes, floods. They had seen the worst nature could offer and learned to fight back. When the human ships arrived at the Palaxian homeworld, the situation was dire. Entire island cities were underwater, millions displaced, and local rescue efforts overwhelmed. The Palaxians, adapted for short flights but not strong swimming, were particularly vulnerable to the flooding. Eric's team deployed immediately, using specialized equipment that allowed them to work in conditions that would exhaust most species. The council observers who accompanied them watched in amazement as humans pushed through fatigue, ignored minor injuries, and worked without rest for days. On the third day, a Palaxian official observed a human rescue worker dive repeatedly into turbulent waters to save trapped civilians, continuing long after safety protocols would have mandated rest. "How can she continue?" the official asked Eric. "Your own guidelines suggest humans cannot safely exert themselves this way for extended periods." Eric watched his colleague with understanding. "Humans have something we call a second wind. We can push past normal limits when others are in danger. It's part of who we are." What he didn't explain was how this trait evolved. From prehistoric hunters who pursued prey far beyond the point of ordinary exhaustion, driven by the pack's need to eat. Across the affected areas, similar scenes played out. Humans working beyond reasonable endurance, organizing efficient rescue operations, improvising solutions with whatever materials were available. The galaxy watched through council news feeds as the predatory drive that made humans feared was channeled into saving lives instead of taking them. In his quarters on Harmonium, Ambassador Krith reviewed the footage from the Palaxian relief efforts, troubled by what he was seeing. These were the same humans whose military precision had disabled a Vraxian attack fleet. Now they were using similar coordination and relentless drive to save a species that had been growing increasingly wary of them. His aide entered with the latest reports. "Sir, the Council is reconsidering its position on humans. The Thulians are now openly advocating for stronger alliance rather than restrictions." Krith's four hands clenched in frustration. "They're missing the point. Yes, humans are helping now, but not because they've abandoned their predatory nature. They've just channeled it differently." "Perhaps that's enough," his aide suggested. "If they direct their aggression toward threats rather than allies." Krith stared at the images of exhausted humans still working to save Palaxian lives. "The most dangerous predator is the one that convinces you it's your protector, until the day it doesn't need you anymore." Back on the Palaxian homeworld, as the immediate crisis subsided, Eric Martinez found himself approached by a group of Palaxian elders. Their head feathers were slicked back in the formal position of their culture. "Your people worked beyond reasonable expectation," the lead elder said. "You risked yourselves for those you barely know." Eric nodded respectfully. "That's what humans do." "We have observed that humans seem to thrive in crisis situations," another elder noted. "Where most species become disorganized under stress, you become more focused, more effective." Eric considered how to explain. Long ago on Earth, humans who could stay calm and work together during dangerous times survived better than those who panicked. We're descendants of those who faced danger head-on. The lead elder studied him carefully. "Your Ambassador Krith believes this makes humans dangerous to the galaxy." "It can," Eric admitted honestly. "Every tool can be a weapon if used wrongly. Our nature makes us good at fighting, good at hunting." He gestured to the recovering city around them, "and good at this too." As night fell on the Palaxian world, council representatives gathered to reassess their understanding of humanity. The predators they feared had indeed revealed themselves, but in ways no one had anticipated. The question remaining was whether the galaxy would embrace these protective predators or continue to fear the power behind their diplomatic smiles.